Vanessa Dion Fletcher is exhibiting with the Aurora Cultural Center. Our exhibition opens tomorrow, July 27th, and is available until September 17th. RM Hamson Fuentes is our curator for the exhibition, who is more of our virtual curator. So today in this Art Bite, we're just going to ask Vanessa a few questions about her exhibition and about her process in creating her materials and some of the concepts behind her exhibition.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm joining you today from my studio here in Toronto, and it's really nice to be working with you and the Aurora Cultural Center. I was born in Newmarket, Ontario, so and yeah, I grew up kind of in the area, and it's nice to have a chance to return.
In your exhibition essay, you mentioned that you started working with Porcupine Quills in 2017. Can you tell us how you're introduced to using Porcupine Quills, and what was that learning process like for you?
Yeah, Porcupine Quills. The story there is that I grew up, and when I was growing up, I mostly saw porcupine quills in museums. And in the collections, and when you go to museums and look for the Indigenous artwork, so I knew about this practice. I didn't see a lot of it. Nobody in my family did quill work or beading. I'd say some of the creativity in my family that I saw was like my mom was like an academic and a writer, and my grandmother was a really avid sewer. She sewed a lot of my clothes. When my mom was young, she sewed all of her family's clothes, and my uncle's like a really amazing chef and cook. So those were some of the like familial examples of making and creativity. And I always loved art. I was always really, really interested in painting and drawing and making fun things. I would even just like using like tissue paper or things around the house to make outfits and for myself or for my dolls, like all kinds of things. So yeah, I grew up knowing about quill work, seeing it. I saw like in my community a lot of examples of beading on people's regalias, I didn't see a lot of quill work outside of the museum context. And when I grew up, I did undergraduate at York University and master's at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And in both those programs, I had so many opportunities to learn all different kinds of artistic methods. And, I could learn printmaking, like intaglio printmaking, lithography, just like printing on a stone, all these really cool methods. But nobody at that time was teaching quill work in these art education. And so I was really able to see that, in part that was because of how Western centric the university education systems are here, as well as in the US, in the schools that I chose. And so, I knew that that if I wanted to learn that, I would have to, have to be something that I would pursue myself, and that, just that in the education I chose and the way I grew up, that I would have to look for it. So in 2017, I was awarded the Melissa Levin Emerging Artist Award from the Textile Museum of Canada. And that came with a small cash prize. So I used those funds to learn quill work. And I learned from a woman named Brenda Lee. She was living on the Nipissing First Nation at the time. And so I drove up from Toronto to Nipissing First Nations, and I met her for a weekend, and she taught me how to dequill the porcupine. So I had to like take the quills off, how to wash them, how to prepare them, how to sort them, and then a few of the stitches for how to manipulate them. And I had been, what else to say? I'd been using quills a little bit in my artwork, mostly just as a kind of piece, as a performance object or a sculptural material. This is an example of one. But I didn't know the embroidery stitches until that weekend. The first quills I got from the internet, I just searched like where to buy porcupine quills. And I was able to order a bunch. So those were kind of the first steps I took. And then once I started, once I had that first lesson with Brenda, that really set me on a good path to, she gave me some tools. She gave me this bone folder. So this is used to like flatten the quills. Sometimes I use like the other side of my scissors too, or the back of the spoon. Lots of materials work. What else? Yeah, she gave you some books. And I think like many textile practices, it's like to do a kind of like the basic stitch or fold is often not that complicated. Where the complexity really comes in is like in that practice and making things either look really neat or being able to do different types of lines or just kind of taking it and like making it your own.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much for going into that process. It sounds so labor intensive, and it's amazing to hear an artist talk about it. Okay, we'll go on to the next question. How long have you been creating your own natural dyes?
I started the natural dyes in that first lesson. Brenda gave me like a copy of some like PDFs of research that she had done on natural dyes. The name that's of the publisher is escaping me, but anyway, so yeah, she used all synthetic dyes in her work, but yeah, kind of tipped me off that it was possible, and there's this whole other world of natural dyes. So I started actually in 2020. Well, there's not many opportunities to leave our homes during the pandemic. So I had some porcupine quills, and the first dyes that I used were onion skins and avocado pits, because those were like really easily accessible, and I didn't have to make another trip to a store. I could just use my kitchen scraps.
You kind of answered this, but I'm sure you'll have more to say. Can you walk us through your process in creating natural dyes and using them in your artwork?
So yeah, I started with the onion skins and the avocado pits. In that first one, I also tried sumac, because there's a lot of sumac grows around Toronto. It often grows along the sides of roads, and it has like red, they're called berries, often referred to as berries, but they're like little, like they're kind of fluffy, I think like botanical wise, I'm not sure if they're a flower or like a fruit or what they are, but they're really beautiful and they're red. And yeah, they're really abundant here. So I got a bunch of those, and in my research learned that you can dye with them. And yeah, when I say my research, I mean mostly Googling natural dyes on the internet, and that one like book that Brenda gave me. And what else? And I think I purchased some black walnut and marigold. And what else? I've also used hibiscus, cochineal, and yeah, I found that onion skins worked really, really well. Marigold works really, really well. What else? I've also started learning that you can manipulate the dyes by changing. It's a chemical process, as opposed to like mixing paints, where the pigment is like in what's called like a carrier. With the dyes, it's the substance is dissolved into water and then like absorbs into your material. So it's a lot more chemical based, and it. What was I thinking? Right, so you can manipulate the dyes. So these, I'll just show you some examples. Like these are what I'm working with right now. This is marigold, and it is, I don't know, white background there so you can kind of see. And typically it would be a much brighter yellow, but I added iron to the dye bath, and that makes most colors kind of darker, or yeah, just look like less bright. So that's the marigold. Yeah, you can also, sometimes it's referred to as turning the dye bath. So you can manipulate it with iron, or change the acidity of the dye bath with things like cream of tartar. Like it's lots of household materials and like baking materials really work well.
Is there any advice you would give to an artist that is preparing to use natural dyes in their art?
I would say like mostly just like get started. If you do do some of your own research. Common like recommendations are to have a well ventilated area, so you can do it outside, or like make sure you have a fan on, like an exhaust fan, or like open windows. Those are some like lo-fi ways to do it. So yeah, we want to have good exhaustion. You want to have a pan that like for your dye bath that is separate from your cooking ones, even though you're using like onion skins or like hibiscus, right? You're essentially like brewing a strong hibiscus tea. This is something we would be able to ingest, because it's recommended to have separate ones because you're distilling it to like a strong amount. So that's just kind of a basic, a few basic safety tips. And other than that, to just get started. And that was kind of the biggest hurdle. Was I was nervous about it for some reason, like nervous about like if it would work, if I would do it wrong. I was a little intimidated by the process. And yeah, once I started, that really opened up a lot of possibilities for me. If you're not using porcupine quills, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of books, a lot of like blogs that can give you really specific recipes and processes for how to dye things like wool or cotton. So yeah, different garments.